Welcome to Top 10 SolidWorks Features to get your designs in gear. My name is Ricky Nguyen, and I'm a Senior Applications Engineer at Hawk Ridge Systems, and I have the honor of being your host for today. For many bike enthusiasts, the month of July is signified by the Tour de France, a grueling race that requires relentless and intense preparation, constant collaboration, and teamwork. My guess is you can probably say the same about what you do too. So today I've asked a couple of my colleagues to join us to help showcase and highlight some of our favorite features, and also some of the resources that we have available to you already that you can take advantage of and help you cross your finish line faster. So let's meet the team. First, we have our Technical Account Manager, Garrett Klein. Hey, Garrett, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Ricky, thanks for having me.
Of course. What do you have in store for the viewers today?
So today we're just going to look at some stuff with essentially licensing and how to update your software a little bit easier. Stuff that I think everybody can really relate to. So I think it's going to be good.
Awesome. Excellent. Next, we have our Product Portfolio Manager, Damon Tordini. Hey, Damon, thanks for taking the time out.
Good day to you, Ricky. Thanks for having me.
Of
Happy
course.
to be here.
What's one of your favorite features that you wanted to highlight?
Well, I had planned to do a little recap of Quick Mates, one of the things I use most often in SolidWorks, but somebody already took that one. So I'm going to show everybody something else instead, a little feature called FlowXpress, which is in every license of SolidWorks, and it's kind of your first step into the realm of fluid dynamics.
Awesome. So last, but definitely not least, we have our veteran tech support representative and customer success advocate, Frank Lin. Hey, Frank.
Hi, Ricky.
Are you joining us from Hawaii?
Well, close. It's Aloha, Oregon. So aloha, everyone. Palm trees and blue skies.
There you go. Can you give everyone a little insight of what we'll talk about today?
I'm going to talk about the training opportunities that are available to all of our Hawk Ridge customers. Some of them are right inside SolidWorks. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Excellent. And speaking of opportunities and just resources, we have a resource guide down below in the description that everyone can go ahead and download and grab too. All right? I'm excited for their sections later today. So now, here's a quick look at some of the 10 features that we're going to be covering today. Looking at the first two, we're going to look at the user interface. We'll look at CommandSearch and shortcut key, and really our focus would be minimizing our mouse movement so you don't have to constantly fly around the interface. We'll look at fully defined sketch when you're working in a sketch. In the part level, we'll look at the configuration table and some of the enhancements there. We'll look at the component preview and smart mates. We'll do a little quick mates like Damon talked about. In drawings, we'll cover predefined views, the dimension palette, and then also where you can go for more information. We'll do a quick render with Visualize Standard. We'll do Copy Settings Wizard, we'll talk about it, and then we'll dive into Garrett's section for the knowledge base. From there, we'll do some FlowXpress with Damon. And then with Frank, we'll learn about some of the tutorials and resources that we have available. So one suggestion I have from this list is maybe circle some of your top 1 to 3 features that you really want to learn about. And then obviously when it comes up, pay very close attention. We're going to go pretty quick. Now, if you circled all 10 of them, don't worry. We're going to have a recording right on our channel of today's session. So with that, let's dive in. Looking at the first two, again, minimizing our mouse movement. One way to do that is with the shortcut bar, clicking S with your keyboard, right? From here, I can customize this to what the features that I want. I can resize it. Maybe you want it to be a little bit more of a square or rectangle. We can change it. And then begin to populate this. But you see that there's a command search now available. If you haven't used command search before, as long as you know the name, for example, maybe I'm looking for a center line. Maybe they've moved it, right? This does one of 3 things. I can click on the eye to show the command location. It'll have an arrow there. I can click on it to activate it. Or I can even left click and drag it to my command manager and customize it if it's a frequently used feature. Now that same functionality is right in our command search. So I can do that same thing. I can click on that plus button to insert the command. I can click on the I to show the command location too. If you prefer, for example, dragging and dropping, you can do the same thing to customize your shortcut bar. Now, say for example, you know where everything is, right? I even forget where things are. But you can go into Customize and turn this off. If you decide I don't want that in there anymore, it's taking up space, you can go ahead and still resize it as you need. Keep in mind, in this Customize is where you're going to add additional features onto there, whether you're in a part, right? If you're activating it in an assembly, in a drawing, or even in a sketch, it's context sensitive. So that's our shortcut bar, and then also our command search. But I also wanted to show one other thing here too, is different ways that we can draw lines, different kinds of lines. Okay, so we can activate our line tool, and one thing to pay attention here is if I click the Alt key, there's an underline now on some of the letters. If I go Alt H and Alt C right now, I can create a horizontal construction line, right? Keyboard shortcut, instead of having to toggle it. That same functionality is also going to work if I want to apply relations. So say, for example, I'll do an as sketched profile, for example. We'll sketch out some of these lines with the point-to-point click. I'll click on this line, and then if I do that same thing, Alt-H, I can make this line right here horizontal. I can do Alt-H to make it horizontal. I can obviously click on the context menu to make it horizontal too. This is just another way to get that done. So here are some of the different shortcuts we can have for our relations, like perpendicular, parallel, concentric, midpoints, and so forth. From here, we're going to take a look at number 3, fully defined sketch. So editing this sketch, we have some dimensions in here, but if I want to just quickly add dimensions, I can go to the drop-down menu here and go fully defined sketch. This is especially useful when you want to quickly add some relations, right? You can choose which ones you wanted to infer. You can also choose, for example, where it's dimensioning from, both horizontally and vertically. Once you do, I can press the green check and it adds those dimensions in. It doesn't change your sketch geometry at all, right? Then from here, you can look at the dimensions and see, hey, is it correct, right? Did it create the ones that I expected it to? I can move them around, I can delete them, and adjust them and make sure that they're not in the way. Quick tip, if you wanted to make this radius a diameter, if I click on it, you'll notice in the menu, I can quickly toggle to a diameter now. It also works the other way too. So if I click on this, I can make that a radius. Now, say for example, you want to modify some of the relations or dimensions that added in. I can go to my display delete relations, and this is a quick way where I can say, you know what, don't need any of those anymore. I can delete all of them. It's also helpful to find anything that may be dangling inside your sketch, right, or over-defined. I also use this function, clicking the D key, I can bring the confirmation corner over there. I'm going to go here, do a quick extrude of this sketch. I'm going to click on it, and on the left-hand side, we can definitely change my direction. I can change my end condition and the value. Or I could just right-click and then say reverse direction. Maybe I wanted to specify that this is just this contour here, so I'll leave that open. Once it looks good, I'm going to go ahead and use my mouse gestures to confirm it. So another shortcut there is to utilize mouse gestures, and you can customize it as much or as little as you want. In the same section where we customize a shortcut bar, I can choose, for example, if I can do a green check, this discards changes for sketches, and then it also enters or exits a sketch. So you can do this for parts, assemblies, and drawings. You can choose how many gestures you want, right? Or if you don't want gestures at all. And then this is the list that we can add in. So say, for example, I want to add like a green check when I'm in an assembly. I just take that, left click, and then drag it over. So now it's available when I right click and go to the right. From here, We've added in some fillets, and we're just gonna use mouse gestures a little bit more if you haven't used them already. I'm gonna go to my circle tool, and again, all customizable. I can pop in this circle, go straight to my dimension, add that in, modify it as I need to. Using our shortcut bar, right? I don't have extruded cut in here. So let's go ahead and activate it. Looking at this cut, I wanna make sure it goes all the way through. I'll go ahead and press OK. So utilizing mouse gestures as well to, again, reduce the amount of mouse movement that we have within working with the part in a sketch. Now, configuration tables. I can go to my configuration tab, and I can go here to add or look at my configurations, right? Now, there's a new functionality in 2022 where I can go to my settings. On general, if you scroll all the way down, it says create configuration tables on open. So if I had that checked on, what we're gonna do is we're gonna right click on here, we'll go to add configuration. Say, for example, we'll make a different version of this, right? Or maybe we'll make it a little bit thicker. As soon as that happens, a configuration table gets created. You can right click on that, show the table, right? If you've ever configured a feature before, this looks similar, right? This is also a great way to add new configurations. It gives me a high-level overview of what's going on in the part or assembly. I get these parameters in here. I can also customize it. So say, for example, I want to add in this cut extrude. I can double-click, add it in, right? Same thing happens for example, this fillet. Maybe some of these configurations have a different fillet size. I can double-click and add that dimension in as well. We described this as a thicker and a thinner configuration, right? That's what we created. So maybe it makes sense to grab that dimension in there too, right? Double click, add that dimension in, and let's change it. Change it right in here. I can make this one 30. I can make this one 25. And again, not having to go into the configuration to do this, I'm also going to change the fillet size too. Say we'll make this about 6. And I think we'll go with, let's do 4 here. Yeah, that works. We're going to apply the change. So it creates that new configuration and gets those dimension changes. Couple other enhancements with our configuration table is there's this now hide and show sketches and features. So it's like a filter. So if I wanted to hide anything that was a feature or a sketch from the table, I can do that. There's also configuration parameters. So these are the options that when you right-click on a configuration, you go to Properties, Suppress New Features. If you're in Assembly, Suppress New Features and Mates, the description. Instead of going through each one of those configurations, it's inside of the configuration table. Lastly, block model edits. You can see it turns that different color, that pink color, right? And that tells you it's activated. What that does, like the name suggests, block model edits, manual edits. So if I go to this feature, right, I go in that fillet, for example, that I blocked. I'm going to double click on it and I get this message. Unable to modify this value because the model edits are blocked in the table. So what do we do here, right? Now, we just undo what we did, right? I'm going to go to my configuration tab. Say, for example, later on, I'm going to remove some of these configurations. We'll talk about that. But I'm going to go into my table, right? Best practice is just to right click and allow for those model edits. You'll see it clear out, right? I'll be able to change it manually like I did before. But what happens if you still have it blocked? And then you decided, you know what, I'm just going to delete these configurations. I don't need them anymore, right? Sometimes what you'll find is you double click on this, it may think that you're still blocked. So it's one quirk that I found, right? If that happens to you, solution or workaround here is to add a configuration, maybe one that you don't need, for example. You get your configuration table back. Now, if you wanted to check to see if maybe it released it, in my case, it still looks like it's being blocked. So the simple solution is to go to that configuration table it creates and then allow for those model edits. We'll apply it and press OK. Maybe we'll remove that configuration if we don't need it anymore. And we pretty much did it for the configuration table. Now, you can see that we can edit our dimension. So just keep that in mind. looking at mates, right, that Damon talked about. Lots of different ways to mate. We can go in the mate menu. We can do smart mates and quick mates. You can also, if you like mating the reference planes, you can click Q on a part, right, in assembly, and it opens up, shows you the reference planes instead of you finding it yourself. In this case, we'll just make a concentric mate. I'm going to select my faces, hold down Control, and we'll access our quick mates. Now, say I want to make this face right here parallel to the other face. I can rotate, I can do right click, and then, for example, select other. This allows me to select through it, right? To select other faces. Another way is component preview window. When I right click on this, I'm going to go to component preview window, and it opens it up in another screen. And I can navigate around without affecting my assembly. I can also change the display style, the behavior for that part that I previewed. I can make it wireframe if it's easier to select. I can also make it transparent. I can also make it hidden, right? I can still select it on the right-hand side. So I'm going to select that face, right, without rotating the assembly. Hold down Control, select that face, and as if it was already inside there, not hidden, I can go ahead and add in that mate. That same functionality also works with isolate. So if you right-click and say I want to isolate these two parts, I have wireframe, and this is for everything else that's not isolated. So I can see where this is in regards to the assembly. I can make it transparent if that's easier to see, or just hide it like what isolate would usually do. We'll add in this concentric mate to finish up the assembly, and we'll exit out of the isolate. Another tip I have is quick mates. But first, I'm going to hold down Control and drag this pedal, because we need two pedals, right? With smart mates, the Alt key is going to be important. I like rotating it so I can see what I'm dragging and what it's going to. So I hold down Alt, left click, and drag that edge. It creates that peg and hole, creates both a concentric and a coincident mate, right? Same result if I did it manually, but just a different way to do it. Now, say you don't like dragging, right? Maybe you just like to click instead or go through a menu. You can access smart mates, by the way, through the move component. So have you ever done like collision detection before? Same area. Click on smart mates, and now all you have to do is just double click on that edge. No need for Alt, or don't have to drag it, and then just click on what it's supposed to mate to. If I had done Alt, I can click Tab, right, to flip the orientation. In this case, it's as simple as going into my mate menu, looking at that concentric and that coincident mate, and then going, cool, I just got to flip the mate alignment. So with the right click to get that in position. Looking at drawings, I want to insert predefined views here. And pretty much it's like working in reverse. I'm telling it, I want this orientation. I'm going to decide if I want annotations brought in, display styles, right? For example, what the scale will look like too. I can click Enter to reinsert that command, and say, for example, we'll go in isometric. New enhancement here is to be able to also insert a flat pattern for sheet metal parts too. Same options apply, and you can take that view and then you can project it. We'll go up top, we'll go to the right to get those views. Those will look at the parent view. Now, to use this in a template, I'm going to go ahead and save this out. Make sure you're saving in a location, in a file location, or you tell SolidWorks where to look for it. I'll go ahead and save it. It's a DRW DOT. And we're going to look back at that C post and just create a quick drawing from there. So it's a quick and easy way to define which views you want with the options that are there. You can see as soon as I create it, it automatically creates the views. If I wanted to insert my annotations, I can do model items or go individually into each view and insert them, right? It's a little bit of a jumble, but I can take this radius. Remember that changing that radial button, the radius to diameter, same thing in drawings. I can do the same thing here. I'm going to grab all of this, and I'm going to use my dimension palette to space these out a little bit more. If you ever move your mouse, you'll lose it. But if you hold down Control, you can see it brings it really close to your mouse now. Click Auto Arrange, It'll space these out. I can still move them after the fact and adjust and place them so it's easier, clearer to read. Another quick tip here, if you wanted to place this part in a different kind of 3D orientation, but maybe you don't have that view inside of your part, I can go in here and go to 3D drawing view and just rotate it as if I was in the part, right, or the assembly. Grab the orientation I want, and then go ahead and press my green check. Side note, for my view palette on the right-hand side, if you haven't used it at all, and say next time you want to open this up and make it faster, you can clear it out. So that was rapid fire, right? But if you go to our YouTube channel, there's top 10 CAD design tips engineers need to know. 1 hour long for 2 years ago that we covered. Also, say you want to learn about drawings. There's a whole hour session that Ryan and Tim did on just detailing and drawings. So tune into our YouTube channel for some of those tips and then tricks. Now, say we want to go and do a quick render of this, right? Before I do the render though, I'd like to maybe modify some of the colors, because whatever I do in here, it's going to translate over to visualize. So for this fork that we'll look at later, I'm going to change the appearance. I'm going to see if I can get it to match Jonas's bike. I can go in here and I can click on this yellow, and that looks pretty good. I kind of like that. But another way to do it is to use the color picker. I can just left click and take that eyedrop and see, oh, do I like that yellow? It's a little darker. I do like the initial yellow, so maybe we'll go with that. If my handlebars, I wanted them to be the same color, I don't have to go through that same process. I can just right click on that fork, copy the appearance, and simply paste the appearance right onto my handlebars. So from here, say now we want to begin to do our render, right? We're going to take this into Visualize Standard, which is available in SolidWorks Professional and above, right? Professional and Premium. I'm going to turn on the add-ins with the add-ins, and we'll just go Export Simple here, right? It's going to group all of our appearances together. If I click on my fast render speed, it's a good compromise for both speed and quality. And I click on the space bar. When you do the space bar, you pretty much have these 5 steps. The import is if you need to bring in anything else into Visualize. In this case, we're good. If you go to your paint, it's like your appearances in SolidWorks. I can simply drag and drop from whatever colors that are available in the project. I can also go to a library that's both available locally or on the cloud if I need more colors. Maybe the inside of these wheels, I want to go ahead and make them yellow too. So like SolidWorks, we're just going to drag and drop them into the interior of the wheels. I like a yellow seat too, so let's go ahead and left click and drag it onto the seat. From here, we'll go from left to right into scenes, kind of like your background. That's your environment. That's going to affect the overall lighting of your model as well. Later on, we'll talk about brightness with cameras. But like appearances, I can drag and drop these in. There are certain scenes that are available inside the project that we can bring in. In the library, there's also plenty that are available locally or on the cloud as well. The green check indicating that it's already downloaded. And again, activated with just a simple quick drag and drop into the background. Cameras, number 4. We can adjust the brightness with the slider on the right-hand side or left-hand side more incrementally. You can also type in values if you prefer to. Change my perspective with the slider on the left or on the right, or input our values, right? Last thing is you'll notice under I have my filters like boost or black and white. I can apply those to my overall model too. Last thing, right click on render and you have different render profiles that you can utilize to begin creating your render. Now looking at this project, right? Maybe we'll take a coffee break, grab some water. We've actually run this already, and it takes just a little under about 20 minutes. So right now it's saying 32 minutes. When the actual thing gets completed, we're looking at about under 19 minutes. Taking a look at some of the renders, again, a very simple 5-step process to create this render. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. For number 8, we wanted to circle back to customization, right? You do all this work in setting up your command manager, your shortcut bar, setting up, for example, how you want your mouse gestures to look. What if you do an upgrade? What if you move to a different computer? That's where number 8 comes in, is the copy settings wizard. This allows you to save your own personalized settings, right? And you can choose what you want to save out, which system options, if you want system options, keyboard shortcuts, mouse gestures, and any customization. It saves it as a registry key that you can save out and then move with you to either the new computer, or after the installation is done, use the same menu to restore your settings, right? And we just talked about installation and then upgrades. And I think that's a great segue to welcome our next speaker. So please help me welcome back Garrett. Hey, Garrett.
Hey, Ricky.
So interesting tidbit about Garrett. He used to design ski lifts. Now, what he does is he gives customers strategic guidance and advice on how to optimize both their design and business processes. If you've talked with him one-on-one, then if you ask him, hey, what do you do? He'll just put it simply as, I just help people, which I can definitely attest to. So his section, he's going to talk about our Hawk Ridge Systems knowledge base. So if you, the viewer, have accessed any one of our articles, let us know in the chat, right? We want to hear from you. If you haven't, stay tuned. With that, please help me welcome our technical account manager, Garrett Klein.
Hey, thanks, Ricky. And thanks for joining us, guys. I see that a few of you are active in the chat. So please, if you have any questions and stuff, make sure that you're putting them in there. Yeah, as an account manager, I often help people with updates and just kind of fielding random questions that might be kind of showstoppers. So that's what we're going to be going over a little bit today, just some of the most common questions. So where I often go for myself or even for customers, I send them to our website, and there's a section in there for the knowledge base on our support side. So you can essentially go in there and type in any question that you might have. So if it's an activation related question, you can type in questions about activation or installation, and you'll find something that's up to date and relevant to what you're looking for, most likely. So this is a great place to start even before you contact support, and you could probably solve your question pretty quickly. So here's an article as an example on updates, like some of the things that we need to know about updates before maybe we take that leap and maybe take ourselves offline. So you always want to do some scoping when you're doing an update. Make sure that your hardware is going to be compatible, your operating system, maybe the version of SQL if you're dealing with PDM. So always make sure that you go through and look to see what has changed from the release that you're moving from to the one that you're going to. And this is a great article by David Lang that you can take a look at and really dive into the details of what you should look for when you're going to go do an upgrade. So again, make sure that you're meeting those prerequisites. The next thing that you're going to need to know is how do you actually get the software? And there are a couple of different ways that you can go and you can download SolidWorks. So as we go through here, you can see it walks you through going to the SolidWorks website, making sure that you have an account, and then where you actually find the software inside of the SolidWorks website. There's a downloads and updates section. If you don't have an account, you'll get this login page that says that you need to create an account. You also need to register your serial number to make sure that you're an active user. One of my favorite ways, however, is to go to your start menu and use check for updates. That will fire up the installation manager, and if you already have SolidWorks installed, it will get you into the section where it's actually downloading the software for you and getting you the latest version. So that's by far the fastest way if you have SolidWorks already installed on your system. The next thing that you need to know, like after you do your get your installation files, is about activation. And this is going to depend whether you're using a standalone license or network licensing, or if you're moving to a new computer or staying on the same one. But this is a great article where it essentially walks you through some of the different methods that you can use for activation, whether it's email activation because you don't have internet access, or like on that specific computer, or network license activation. It's always important to make sure that you reactivate your licenses if you're moving to a new server, And how that's done is you just simply get on the server, you go to the license manager, and you can click on modify. If you're moving to a new computer, you use that top option there to move. If you're reactivating on the same server, that is like you use that server before and you just need an update, you just use that middle option. And if you just want to see what licenses you have, you can use that bottom option. So it's pretty straightforward. It's essentially just next, next, next through all of those. So it's a really easy thing to do. So good article. Another one here from Daniel having to do with licensing. This is a very common question. So in this scenario, if you had 6 licenses, 2 of professional, 1 of premium, what you're going to see in the license manager sometimes confuses people. You'll see 6 standard licenses. And when all those are consumed, you might still see that a professional and 2 professional and 1 premium are still available. It really depends on which features the users are pulling out and which licenses are taken. Somebody will always take a standard license if they're pulling a professional or premium, but then they'll take those additional features if they're using additional functionality. The last one I wanted to cover here has to do with kind of license monitoring. You can go to the license manager and you can look currently what current usage looks like, but you can also come in here and there's a log file. And if you look at the article, there's a couple of different pieces of software that you can use to parse a log file to get a good idea of what your usage actually looks like. I'll often use this with customers and show them like, if people are being denied a license, which users are being denied, who's using maybe the more advanced features, and you can even see some information about how long each user has been using a specific license. So you can simply go to that and you can save it out. So it's just a really great tool for allowing us to really get some good details about about usage. So yeah, hopefully that helps you guys, and hopefully you learned a little bit and it's useful.
Yeah, all of that within the knowledge base, right? It's an incredibly important resource, and I think one of the things I love about it, it's constantly being added to and updated, especially for someone like the frequent questions and like the commonly asked questions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Garrett. So next, we have Damon Tordini for our 9th feature. So I'm betting some of the viewers on here have either sat in a training class with Damon before, both online or virtually. Maybe you've learned from Damon in a product demonstration where he showcases one of our products, or has worked with him and collaborated with him on maybe a consulting or a service, right? If you have, let us know in the chat. Now, right, most likely you probably found if you have, or just working with him, he's technically strong. And he's adept at making these complex situations and challenges and making it very simple and easy to understand. He's also very dependable and always willing to help. So now you're going to learn from him. He is our product portfolio manager. Please help me welcome Damon Tordini.
Thank you, Ricky. Good to be here. Happy to join you today. Thanks for the flattery. And good job explaining both QuickMates and SmartMates. I always forget there's like 3 different ways to use those. And thanks for the reminder about Visualize. I had forgotten that every license of SolidWorks Pro has Visualize in it. I'm going to briefly show you a different kind of visualization tool, which is also available in SolidWorks, and that's called FlowXpress. And this is going to be a way to get a different kind of visual related to fluid flow. If you're not familiar, this FlowXpress tool is a quick way to do internal fluid flow inside a SolidWorks part or assembly. It's got some limitations on it, of course, but basically it's set up to give you an analysis, fluid flow analysis, of anything that has an inlet and an outlet. That could be, a piping system or a valve, or maybe a hydraulic brake fluid line on a bike, something like that. But with a couple tips and workarounds, I'm going to show you how we can use it to do a quick aerodynamic analysis of one of the components on the Sol road bike. You can see I've got the road bike assembly open here. I'm actually in large design review, which is another kind of newer SolidWorks feature that helps you quickly open up, large models and review them. And what I think I want to do here is use FlowXpress to do a quick aerodynamic check of the fork. This is kind of an updated design that someone had done, trying to see if it's a little bit more aerodynamic. And so if I want to do that, you saw just a second ago that there's kind of a requirement for FlowXpress. You have to have some kind of enclosed geometry with like an empty space in the middle. But what I can do if I'm trying to run a basic aerodynamic study is I can take this new fork and drop it into an assembly. And that's what I've done here. I've made a SolidWorks assembly called Wind Tunnel. And I just made a new part from the assembly using the in-context design features. I basically made just a rectangular extrude, just kind of sketched out a rectangle and did an extrude in both directions. And then I kind of capped the ends. I threw a couple more extrudes on the ends. And so that creates this sealed volume, which is the requirement for using FlowXpress. And so now I can access it. You can see there under Tools and then Express Tools. And that's where FlowXpress is located. And there's no installation required. Every license of SolidWorks will have that available from that drop-down menu. Now, when you click it for the first time, you are going to be asked to enter what's called an activation code. This is true for any of these Express tools that are present. It's pretty easy to get. There's going to be a web link there. And if you click that, it will take you to a website called MySolidWorks, which is a good, sort of a central resource for tutorials and support and lots of things from SolidWorks. You'll hear more about that in our later segment from Frank. But basically, as soon as you log in, you'll be presented with this activation code that you need to use FlowXpress. If you haven't ever logged into MySolidWorks before, you can create an account. You'll just need to put in your SolidWorks serial number, and some of those knowledge base articles that Garrett showed you will probably help you do that. So now once I've activated it, I click that FlowXpress tool from the dropdown, and you're presented with this kind of welcome message. You'll see it on the left-hand side here. And this is just a reminder of what FlowXpress is and what it can simulate fluid flow inside your model with sort of one inlet and outlet there. So what I'm going to do is go through the wizard, and I'm going to set up these inlet and outlet conditions on those front and back faces that I defined to run this thing. Now, the first step in the FlowXpress wizard is just to make sure that you have geometry that's going to work. So there's a button that will show you the fluid volume. And you can see here, it looks like I know how to make an extrude feature, thankfully. And I've made this sort of sealed fluid volume. That's showing to me in blue there. And then there's an option right below that called smallest flow passage. And what that's for is to make sure that FlowXpress can capture any of the sort of narrow channels in your model and basically simulate them accurately. And so, on the fork there, kind of, near the top of where the front wheel would go, I think they call that the crown. That looks to me like the narrowest passage. It's like 2 inches, I think. So I'll plug in 2 inches there. And then at the next screen, I just select fluid. In FlowXpress, you can choose air or water. And luckily, air is what we need in this case. Of course, the full version of this tool, SolidWorks Flow Simulation, has a big library of fluids, and you could create other things, add to it, and have a lot more options. But for right now, we'll pick air. So now the next step is to define the inlet condition. You got a couple options here. But what I'm going to do is pick the inside face of that sort of front lid, as we call it. I'm using the select other command there to grab that face. And I'm going to define a volume flow rate. So just the amount of air coming in. And I'm going to plug in 2,200 cubic inches per second, which is it's a little over 1,000 CFM. So it's kind of like a box fan on medium. And then I can plug in the temperature of the air coming in. And that's useful because, as you probably know, Ricky, the properties of fluids like air or any gas that changes with temperature. So if it's a kind of a warm day for the Tour de France and I want to make sure that's accounted for, I'll plug in the temperature and now the air has the right properties. Similarly, I needed an outlet condition on the back face. So I'm grabbing that face again with the select other command. And the default there is just to define sort of atmospheric pressure. And that's probably good. I don't want to change that in most cases. It's just kind of saying the back is an opening to the exterior environment. If I was like at a real high altitude race or something, maybe I'd change that pressure. Otherwise, that's all I need for setup. One inlet condition, one outlet, and the fluid. And so at basically the last screen here, there's a button that you click, looks like a play button there, and that runs the simulation and also, of course, does the meshing and all the other stuff that is needed in the background. So this will take probably a minute or so. It's going to be a function of how big that fluid volume was and also what I typed in for that smallest channel setting, again, 2 inches. So it's doing all the meshing and computation in the background. It's calculating, the velocities and then the pressure field from that. And, while I'm not going to have access to the full suite of results that FlowXpress is calculating right now, I will be sort of automatically presented with the most important things. And that is really what we call the fluid stream lines. So you can see where the fluid's going and what the velocity is. And so that is what pops up here as soon as the analysis is done. So I'm just going to switch my view here kind of to the side to get a better look at this. And so what you can see is we've got these flow streamlines. And right now we have a display style called pipes that's being shown. So these are just like solid lines from the inlet kind of going past the new fork to the outlet, and they're colored by the velocity of the air. So we can kind of see right now there's some of the streamlines are hitting the fork and kind of being diverted, but there's not a lot of detail. So we can take that slider and crank it up to a higher value. So we can go up to maybe like 40 or 50 streamlines even. And now we're getting a little bit more detail, a little better picture, especially if we go to like a top view maybe of how that flow is being diverted. And again, it's just showing where those sort of inlet points are traveling around the fork, as they enter the wind tunnel. And you can see right now, most of those streamlines are kind of being diverted to the outside of the fork. So that's probably a good thing, from a drag standpoint. You don't want all the air going into where the wheel would be. And there are some other options. You can change the display style, to balls, sort of a spherical, image. But otherwise, what you can do is take snapshots of these result images. You can turn on the sort of little indicators here to remind you of what those inlet conditions were, and then you can click the snap image button to save that. So I've got like a profile view here I probably want, maybe that top view again. It's got that velocity legend there, so we're in the range of, probably like 10 to 12 inches per second for most of the flow. And then once I think I've captured most of the images that are important to me, there's, and again, I might change the display style. There's one last feature that is not used very often here that's very cool, and that is the generate report button. So that will take these images and just basically auto create a Word document for me with those result plots in there. And there's one extra reason why you'd want to do this, why you want to use this generate report option, and that is that other than getting a summary of what you ran and the results, you also get a small table there that summarizes the velocity and actually shows you the maximum velocity of your FlowXpress analysis. So this one was a maximum of 13.44 inches per second. And if you're familiar with aerodynamics, typically when flow is diverted around something like a wing, that tends to make the velocity go up. And that's the sidewall pressure going down. That's Bernoulli's principle. But it probably means that there's more drag. We don't get to see the drag force directly from FlowXpress. But most likely, if I'm trying to reduce the drag, I want to reduce that maximum velocity. So what I could do is, try a design change. Maybe I go change the angle of that front fork in some way. Maybe I change the profile, and I could rerun FlowXpress to see if that reduces that maximum velocity. So just to summarize, as long as I enclose my part like this fork in some kind of solid body, I can run what is basically a wind tunnel test, even though FlowXpress is only for internal simulations. One other tip, if you have multiple inlets and outlets, you can still run that kind of a problem if you close them all off with one kind of connecting face there. So like in that engine intake, just would model something up that connects all those 6 engine ports into kind of one big face, and then it should still let me run it. All right. Well, I hope that was fun.
Yeah. So you can do all of that directly in SolidWorks, and then every level of SolidWorks has access to it?
Everyone. Parts and assemblies, too.
That's impressive. Awesome. Thanks, Damon. So turning to our last presenter, I'd like to welcome back Franklin. So for Frank, customer service is at the heart of everything that he does. Hey, Frank. If you've ever been on a call with Frank before or started with a ticket, you're going to know what I'm going to say next, but can you let us know in the comments too? He has such a passion, and he's worked over 14,000 cases, so my guess is there are probably maybe one or two people that have on the live stream. But either way, right, each of these interactions, he always makes sure he gets back to the customer, make sure they get back in action, and it solves every problem that they have with each interaction he has. It also just happens to be his birthday today. Happy birthday, Frank.
Thank you. Yes, it's a great day. My grandkids gave me a call this morning.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
By the way, I can't think of a better way, besides spending it with your grandkids, then I can't think of a better way than celebrating with us, right?
Of course. It's the Hawk Ridge family.
There you go. So Frank is going to take us in the home stretch with our number 10 and final feature, tutorials and resources. So please help me welcome our seasoned technical support representative and customer success advocate, Frank Lin.
Thank you, Ricky. That's very kind. Hello, everybody. I'd like to let you know about some training opportunities that are available for you. And one of them is right inside SolidWorks. You just click on that little house button. That'll open the welcome screen. Then you click the Learn tab. Now you can click on Get Started with SolidWorks CAD. This is a learning path. Okay, this takes you to MySolidWorks. You're going to need a login for this. The regular SolidWorks, MySolidWorks, or SolidWorks.com. Call tech support if you have trouble with that login. We'll help you get going. We're happy to do that. And let's take a look at what's available right here. So you've got part modeling, assembly modeling, drawings, SolidWorks basics, and the user interface. This is in the Getting Started section. So let's look at part modeling. Alrighty, this video opens up in MySolidWorks, and you can see at the bottom of the screen you've got the length in minutes and a little bit about this particular tutorial. So let's open it up. And just like that, about 3 clicks and you're in a tutorial. It's pretty cool, right from your SolidWorks welcome screen. So there's several modeling tutorials from basic to advanced. We'll take a look at some of those later. There's also some great step-by-step tutorials right inside SolidWorks. You can click right there, or you can click on the help question mark drop down and click on tutorials. Now these are pretty cool because they're installed with your SolidWorks when SolidWorks is installed. If that didn't happen, a quick modify install and you can put them in, or call us. This one is a clutch cover. Down at the bottom right, you can click My First Part. And this feature is really good. Check this out. If you click right on the little icon in the tutorial, take a look at what happens in your SolidWorks. It lights up that icon for you. So really, I mean, this can take you right from beginning to your first part. So we're going to click on a part icon, get a part template open, follow the instructions on the screen, and then click the next little button on the bottom right. That'll take you to the next page of the tutorial. Same thing here. If you click on the icon, it lights it up in SolidWorks for you. Extruded boss base. So then you can select your plane, follow the instructions, and continue creating your first part. It's pretty awesome. This little show icon shows the glossary or index of all the tutorials. I mean, it's massive. We've got all kinds of tutorials right inside SolidWorks. And really, you just need to click them open and get started. It's pretty cool. All kinds of topics from soup to nuts, even mouse gestures. So that's a SolidWorks tutorials right inside your SolidWorks. It's pretty awesome.
Wow. So
Yeah.
say, you know what? Say I wanted to learn a little bit more, Frank. We're on our, we're going through a live stream on the YouTube channel.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything on there that we can learn from?
Oh, we've got lots more. Let's take a look.
Let's go.
Okay. So in the Hawk Ridge Systems YouTube channel, you can click on the Home tab. There's a little search button. And my favorite is the playlist. Look at this. This has got to be the gold standard for YouTube content for SolidWorks and the other software that we sell, CamWorks and SolidWorks and MarkForged and simulation, you name it, it's all here. So please bookmark that playlist, click to subscribe so you get to know about any new tutorials we put up. And now we're going to get into the Hawk Ridge website. This is another gold mine. Click on the support icon. Now we've got the knowledge base, and let me tell you, every call we make, if we have a odd problem that we solve for you, we typically make a KB on it so we can cover our bases for the next call. You're welcome to look at all of these knowledge base articles, and they're all made by your support team at SolidWorks. Now, with your SolidWorks subscription with Hawk Ridge, you've got an Essential Success Plan or an Elite Success Plan. So these all include the technical engineering support team, right there, your software upgrades for SolidWorks, SolidProfessor on-demand training. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. Exams and certification preparation, free SolidWorks certification exams. With Pro and Premium, you get SolidWorks Visualize Standard. It's an amazing rendering software. You get SolidWorks Cam Standard with any level of SolidWorks. That's 2.5 axis CamWorks built right in. You get a 3D printing service voucher. And then with the Elite Success Plan, you get SolidProfessor on-demand training site license. That's 3 seats of SolidProfessor for every single seat of SolidWorks. You also get a 2-hour Ask an Expert session. It's 2 hours with one of the pros, one-on-one. You got live instructor-led training credit, and you get a services discount. This is for things like PDM implementation or updates. Pretty awesome plans from Hawk Ridge Systems. These are unique to our company, and they're all for you. If you scroll down on that subscription page on the Hawk Ridge Systems website, you'll see a breakout of the Elite and Essential Success Plan. Let's take a look at SolidProfessor. Talk about another gold mine. Here it is. SolidProfessor is a world-class training platform that a lot of colleges and universities use, and also a lot of businesses. You can take courses like passing the CSWA exam or passing the CSWP exam. This is a full set of courses to get you ready to pass that test. It takes some work, and when you're done with them, you'll be ready. SolidWorks tutorials, there's another, 100 or so. There's all sorts of other CAD-related topics in SolidProfessor also. So I would strongly encourage you to get plugged into SolidProfessor. If you need help with it, support at solidprofessor.com to get SolidProfessor support. It's a great resource.
Excellent. So whether you're a new engineer or you have a new engineer on the team or you're an experienced designer, there's pretty much something for everyone, right?
There is something for everyone, and there's new content being generated continuously. They put in a lot of new SolidWorks training this year. So it's current, it's fresh, it's to the point, and it covers just about any topic you'd need.
There you go.
It's a
I think
great resource.
I'm gonna hop on SolidProfessor after this and learn a little bit about FlowXpress. Thanks, Frank.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Awesome. So in conclusion, we hope you can take away at least one of these features, one of these tips from the top 10 list and implement it right away. Whether it's customizing your shortcut bar, maybe running your first visualize render, or running your first FlowXpress study, like Damon showed us, right? Garrett and Frank were kind of like our CommandSearch. Garrett showed us some of the resources we have in the knowledge base to both plan our upgrades, get us up and running, and then understanding what we have. Frank, right, showed us some of the resources and the opportunities we have to grow our skill set. Again, whether you're a new designer, a new engineer in the team, or you're also an advanced user too, right? Also, just as a reminder, make sure to grab our resource guide down below in the description. I'm grateful and thankful for Damon, Garrett, and Frank for their time, their expertise, and their knowledge and experience. Right? I can tell you wouldn't be as fun without them on the live stream as well. And to you, the viewer, we all want to just remind you that we're here with you and also for you every step of the way, whether it's learning, applying, implementing, and ultimately helping you cross your finish line. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.